Well, pleasant day. Good afternoon to all. Welcome. For those of us who don't know me, I'm Shivani Sinarai, and I wish to, have a little conversation with us on a very interesting topic, the Balanced Scorecard. So welcome to our Lunch and Learn series as we go week to week. And last week we had a very interesting conversation on wound care, healing wounds. The week before we had yoga. The week before we would have had some different topics. And today we have Balanced Scorecard. So thanks for those of us who have been joining us week to week as we continue with on Caribbean Connect platform, sharing knowledge and just having a great time during the lunchtime hour, right? So welcome. I'm seeing some familiar names. I think I know a lot of you all here. I hope you all know me. So before we begin, anybody would like to ask anything, say anything? What are your expectations? Do you know about a Balanced Scorecard? I'm seeing Candice. Candice, do you know about a Balanced Scorecard? No? Trisha?
I heard about it, but I've never used it.
All right, Debbie. Debbie, we've seen Debbie also.
Yes, I know a little bit about it, but that would have been maybe about 20 years ago. So I'm interested to see if there have been any changes since then.
Right, so great. That means you're understanding it. Alwyn? Well, I know you are in strategic planning always, so I'm sure you know about a Balanced Scorecard.
Yes, I am. But to be honest, we never actually used it. Most persons think it's, well, I think they see it as a mountain to climb in some respects, so they don't particularly appreciate its value or its potential.
So great, thank you. So here we go then. I'm just making sure that the persons who are coming in, but let's start off. So great, Balanced Scorecard. What exactly is this? Now it has become the most popular, I would say the most popular performance management tool of all time. There's a certification that we can do to become certified. Lots of organizations use it to help them define their strategic goals and monitor their performance. So it is a strategic performance management tool that is broken up into 4 areas of your business. These areas are called perspectives. The theory is basically any organization needs to look at 4 perspectives. Now, we're looking at the organization in terms of everything that we want to do. You must have financial performance, you must have performance related to the customer, you must have performance around their internal processes, and you must have learning and growth. You cannot be focused only on one particular area. What is your strategy? So I came out of a conversation a little while ago that I had an example where when persons don't have a strategic plan or a strategic map, or they're just probably focused on one particular area, things fail. So I wasn't happy that the organization is failing, but I was happy to see that when we don't do things correct, or we're not looking at a performance management tool, how things will fall apart. So, think about it. A lot of us may be working in different projects. I am a project management practitioner, and facilities management and different businesses and strategic planning. And what I have seen, we can use this in any particular area, You could use it to grow your business. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, you're a head of a facilities department like myself, you're head of a project, you want to be able to use it in all different capacities. But, for those of us who are probably hearing it for the first time, understand that it is a performance management tool that preaches people must understand their strategy. They must have a strategic map. So the example, before I go on, you know, with a company that wasn't doing this, what they will focus on, they will really focus on internal processes. What are the processes? What are the processes? And becoming so process driven that they were not understanding how does these processes now relate to the customers? Is it really improving the customers? Is it going to bring in revenue? What about learning and growth? What about the culture? So we have to remember one impacts the other. So whatever you want to do, it must have some type of relationship, some kind of correlation between each. Financial performance, performance related to the customers, performance around their internal processes, and learning and growth. I personally find the perspective that I will always concentrate on, I'm sure you may guess it, is learning and growth, because I believe in a learning and development culture for people. And when you preach that learning and development culture, you know, you improve processes, and once you improve the processes, customers can get what they want from you, and then you make increased revenue. So you have to look at everything. There's a relationship between all. You can't just come and say, these are the processes. Let me know how HR is hiring. Let me know how finance is making their money. What are the processes that they're using? But another point would be probably those processes are all. Probably you have to do what we refer to as business process reengineering now, and you have to retool and relook at things. So you can't just focus on the processes. If you focus on processes, you have to show the processes must relate to performance of your people, must the customers, financial performance. If you're just saying that these are the processes and this is how we're going to get it done, no. So let's look at finance. What is the financial perspective we keep talking about? Most organizations need to look at their financial performance. Yeah. For things you might want to monitor, measure, and focus on a business. If the business is generating revenue, generating a profit, and managing your cash flow. So things like this you will put into the first perspective, you know. You would say, all right, I need to monitor, I need to make $500,000 in revenue, right, in order to sustain this business. And if this is how I'm going to do it, if this is what I want, this is the finance, this is my KPI for finance, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it with those different perspectives? So again, you know, we can start with finance and we can say, the organization, we need to generate $100,000 more in revenue over the next 6 months. And then we would say we could survive. But if we just say that, alone, we may have some gaps. So we just don't want to say we need to get $100,000 more in revenue. Once you say that, you know what is happening then? You have to put a system in place to know how are you going to do it. And how are you going to do it is where what we showed before. You might look at how am I going to look at my processes to make that money. I need to probably teach people something more, and then I'll be able to get the customers. But if persons your strategy when you come in there, you just say, all right, well, I need to improve this process, that process, and things were not meshing from one perspective to the other, then you're going to fail. So this is the purpose of the balance card, scorecard in a nutshell so far. It is a performance management tool that focuses on these perspectives and that focuses on this. Now you could change this thing up to and you could look at different perspectives. What I found that, you know, this is generic. You could use it in almost anything. I use it in everything. I use it in FM, as I was saying. I use it in business. I use it in if I'm running training, you know. And after I'll talk about the customer perspective here. Here you look at customers and market things like customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, branding, market share. This is obviously if you have the right customer loyalty. If the customers are unhappy, are happy with your product, this will help you deliver the financial growth and the result that you need. But if they're not happy, then you cannot meet the financial goals that you have set out. Remember, each one of these perspectives, you have to now put some type of KPIs, key performance indicators. You have to say, this is, I need to make this amount of money. This is how I need to have 50% of customers satisfied in order to do that. So look at how there must be some type of interconnectivity between each phase. So in the first financial perspective, as I'm going back again, if I'm saying that I need to make $100,000 in 6 months' time, that is a KPI. That's a KPI. All right. How am I judging that? Okay, the customer, I'm supposed to have at least 60% of customers return customers. So that is a KPI for me, how I'll measure the customer perspective. Because a lot of times too, people don't have this type of data. You just say, all right, you're in your business, you're in your organization, and in your organization now, we say we're going to make this amount of money. And then you might just say, well, customer service is so poor, customer service is so poor. Do you know what amount of customer service you needed to have? What was your measurement in order to achieve those financial processes? Do you know that? Do you put down the KPIs for that? So just to reiterate a point here, because I found it to be so relevant in my area, right? In any area, I shouldn't say in my area, in any area, in any industry. The purpose of customers, everybody loves to say, poor customer service. And that is the reason why we're not making this amount of money. And, and then I sit with people and I say, do you have the KPIs? Did you measure properly? How are you determining that customers are unhappy? You can't determine that if customers are unhappy, just like that, if you're not making the money. You may see in order to make the 100,000. So this is where the specifics come in now. This is their metrics, and this is how I'll measure. In order for me to make $100,000 more in 6 months, I need to have 60% of the customers that already have returning to buy the product. Or, you know what? I need 50 new customers. And then this is where your internal processes come into play now. Your internal processes. How am I going to achieve something like that? This looks at what we do as a business need to be good at, whether it is marketing or manufacturing. Some internal processes around innovation. These are the things that will help us satisfy our customers, that will then help us deliver our financial results. So internal processes. Again, I come along from the same example, financial, you need $100,000 to make more. How are you going to do that? You need satisfied customers. How much satisfied customers you need? Okay, in order to achieve those satisfied customers, you need to fix your process. What process do you need to fix? Sometimes you fix processes and those processes don't contribute to the customer being happy, right? Again, and I have the perfect example where I'm seeing that when persons don't do this, things are not going to get done, right? In terms of processes, you focus on all the different processes, but you're not focusing on what process is the business that really hitting the business. Everything else may be supporting processes, may be supporting processes. So, for example, let us say that it's a learning management system. A learning management system where persons can just go on and purchase a self-paced learning course. So the processes around that would be what? What are the processes? All the technology processes. Those are the processes that will make people want to come to buy a course, as we say, a self-paced learning course. And when they buy that, your financial, you are able to make the money that you said you had your target, and your customers will be happy. But the process, I'm not going to say, all right, what are the processes? The main process, what is the main process that I need to have my eye on the ball, as I say, and make sure those processes are working, that it will increase, make customers happy, and that I will make the money. I'm not going to look at every single process and try to do KPIs for this and KPI. Yes, I will not say no, but you're starting up with a plan. And the plan is, look at the main ones, what the business needs, whether it is marketing, what are the internal processes, which is the most important process, in order to achieve that $100,000 in revenue. So I'll give you the example that I'm giving, right? It was for an organization that I was doing some consultancy work for. And I saw that they were so focused on the facilities and fixing up the facilities and the facilities. And what I said, we are not focusing on the business of the day. What is the strategic thinking here? The strategic thinking is not to fix up these rooms. The main focus was on a system, a learning management system, which is in terms of students. I don't want to give it away too much, but the actual example, but they were not with students. We're just talking about fixing up the facility. When you already have an online system, that students could come and get their learnings from, make the money, and then you could go and fix up your facility if you want to bring back a brick and mortar facility, as we say. The point again is focus not on the processes first, but what is your financial thing that you need to do. Food for thought, right? And then my favorite, as you know, is learning and growth. It's the most cryptic name because this refers to is your business drivers, especially some of your more intangibles. And basically, we are breaking this up into 3 different lenses to identify some of the drivers of the business. The learning and growth, human capital. The people that you have with you, do they have the right skills? Right? Do they have the right skills? The employers, do they have the right behaviors, the right attitude? Do they have the right behaviors? Do they have the right attitude? Organizational capital. What is the leadership style and the organizational culture? It may not even promote learning and growth. And if it does not promote learning in your organization, then you cannot satisfy your customers. You can't improve processes, and you definitely cannot do the financial, to make financial. And then you have informational capital. Do you have the right data? Could you make decisions now very quickly? To know we need to pivot. We call it pivot, right? All the time, we need to pivot. The data is showing us that we're going to fail, right? Well, we need better data. We don't have the data, or you have the data. And in project management, we would say you have gathered the data, you have analyzed it, you have represented it, but you have not made a decision about the data. That is a disconnect also from data gathering to making a decision. So these are the 4 perspectives, everybody. I just want to go through again before I show one thing. You must have financial performance, performance related to the customer, performance around the internal processes, learning and growth. Before we continue, let's take any questions. Anyone got any questions? Any questions? So could we do a little recap so far? What have you retained so far?
Well, I did have one, right? You mentioned at the beginning that this card could be modified to cover other areas. That's correct, right?
Yeah, which one? What would it be?
Well, what I was actually thinking about, because I've never actually considered
Mhm,
changing out the four pillars.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I think what has happened in the past is that I've just been bound by the four that you've presented. But it's interesting that you said switching them out, and is something that I've actually never considered before, and I thought it was interesting that you said like because not every organization functions the same way or has the same activities or objectives. So I could see this working for a traditional organization, let's say like a multinational or some large production organization, but let's say a nonprofit. Their financials, they're not driven by, let's say for instance, they're not driven by income, they're driven by funding.
Social. Mhm.
Yeah, and social returns and stuff like that. So they have very, very different motivations, which would warrant switching out, like you mentioned, the possibility of switching out some of these pillars for something that is more aligned to how their business model functions.
So
So
what would it be then, Alvin? You're making us think, right? And I mean, I want to take the convo a little further. What would
Mhm.
it be? What would you change it then, in your opinion, for a type of company as non-profit?
Well, definitely, well, learning and growth. So definitely, well,
Financial.
financial is one, definitely. I would
Yeah, you'll
agree with
change it.
financial.
Yeah.
In terms, let me see, what is another one that
Now,
would be
as you're
fun?
talking, right? I'm
Mhm.
thinking I will change it for reputation. You know, your reputation. If
Great.
it's a kind of company like that, community based, and how people values, something like values, right?
Yeah,
So I could change the financial and probably, tweak that term to meet that type of
right.
company. So I might, as you said, you wouldn't use the word financial, you would use the word
Probably funding or doing, well, funding, I think funding will encapsulate like donations. Um,
so in order to survive, you need to have
yeah,
this amount of money, right? And
correct.
how would you get this amount of money? You needed to probably fix your processes too, right? You may have to fix the processes too. What about learning? Do you think learning and growth might
Yeah, I would say yes, but I've seen some organizations where um, it's not the core thing and it's not required because what they do is that they would bring in people with those expertise. And so like let's say they would hire people already working in the private sector with the requisite skills and training from outside, and they would bring them in, deliver the work or deliver the project, and then they go back to their organization. So it's not a key focus for them because their model necessitates bringing resources in and then letting those resources go. So but for them, what they focused on more heavily was data. So again, their model was based on, so it was heavily data driven for their work. Um, so so again, I see the potential for it, and I just kind of thought it was interesting that I would share that.
great? But getting back to the example with the non-profit, how could we use a balanced scorecard to make sure that, because at the end of the day, you can't survive without, so some probably is an NGO, they cannot survive without funding, right? They can't survive, correct, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
So the first on in the balance scorecard, let's say if we want to change it, finance, we changing it from finance to funding, How are we going to gain this funding, as you said, from the internal, the customer? Would we still say the word customer there? The processes, you need to tweak the processes, definitely. Instead of saying, I may probably leave learning and growth, but I will add another one, which is reputation. Your reputation or your brand. So, for example, a company may come to me, right, because they see my brand as giving them value. So they may fund me. They may fund me if I'm an NGO because they see value in doing it. So for example, I would have gotten involved in cocoa projects, right? Cocoa projects, and the funding that the organization would have received, it is because my organization that I represented at that point was seen as, the brand. They wanted to go with the brand.
Right.
So for we have to look at brand and reputation, and what is the brand and the reputation, especially to get funding. And we were able to get it because of the organization that I belonged to at that point to draft up this thing. So everything is, and then what I had realized with that, some of our internal processes needed to change because we were not an NGO, but we were getting funding, right? We were getting funding. And the only reason that the organization was giving my organization funding is because of the brand, and it was community-based projects, right? Community-based to improve a certain amount of clients in the cocoa industry.
Right.
And in that example, we were not going to get the funding until we changed some of our processes. Some of our processes had to change in terms of the financial, how to acquire the funding. It was to design a cocoa training program. That also had to change because it was so political to do certain things. So our processes had to change. Otherwise, it was coming close to not receiving the funding. And we received the funding because of brand and value. So in taking it now into the second cohort or the second pilot project that we want to run, what I will be doing is ensuring that I have KPIs for brand and values and reputation. Yeah. So you must say that you should do about 5 of these community projects a year in order to continuously get the funding, because people have to view you as supporting the community.
Right.
That makes sense?
Correct, yeah.
And what was the learning and growth in that example? It was a change. It is really cultural change. It was a cultural change that we had to do. I still have to do it because we were only able to run the first year like that. But so that's a good example, I think, Baldwin.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions, Chrissy, Nikisha, Trisha, Chanel, anyone?
No, I'm good, thanks.
So could
No,
you
good,
do
thank you.
could you do a recap? What are we learning so far? Yeah.
I came in a bit late. So I came in actually when you were doing the third point.
Okay, so somebody will help
yeah.
us.
Okay.
Tanu, Nikisha, Trisha.
Sure, no problem. I can help. Hi, it's Neil here. What I got from the Balanced Scorecard, because I've heard of it before, but never actually used it because I'm into agriculture. So I'm a farmer. So
What are you? Sorry?
I'm a farmer.
Right. So I wonder how you could use this.
So
Yeah.
for me, I can see in terms of the learn and grow part of it, in terms of like the human capital and making sure you have the proper skill set or persons who would know how to treat with your crops, especially what type of cropping you do, short-term, long-term, medium. If you use chemicals, if you don't, like in my case, I do natural. And in terms of the information, in terms of tracking, so tracking your produce, how much you plant, your yields, your prices, your profit, your sales, from that perspective in terms of the information capital. The internal processes, if you're into manufacturing is one thing, but if you're into marketing, how do you market your goods or for sale without having to go to a farmer's market? The traditional way of marketing. So you have to now look at ways of advertising what you have to offer, right? And if you're into processing, the same goes with that as well. Tracking your customer loyalty will be, of course, dependent on customer feedback from the purchases that they would have done if they're pleased. So you have to have a way of customers to give feedback to you on, did they enjoy what they purchased, the shelf life, how it lasted, the taste, and even the price point in which you sold it at. And then that would now tie back into repeat business, which would now speak to the financial aspect of it, in terms of your cash flow, and then course, keeping track of your expenditure and all of that. So everything really does tie in, I think, regardless of whether it's profit or non-profit, because going back to Alwyn's point, when you were probably thinking that you would change financial for funding, I was thinking it would stay as financial because you still have to give an account of how you expense the donations you receive, because you would have to account for that to the persons who would have given it to you, because they would need to know that it's reaching out to the sector that you're trying to help. So they
Well,
would,
I
Go
could
ahead.
use that in my internal processes, you see,
okay,
for finance. The funding, well, I mean, we could play around with a different word,
mhm,
but the funding would really be, I need to have, okay, if you want to say finance, but I need to acquire $50,000 in funds in order
Right.
to survive. I need to acquire it.
correct.
I need to acquire it.
And then you need to know who you can go to acquire that and what would be their requirements for you, as you were saying with your organization, that you all had to do some tweaks to be
Yeah.
able to get the necessary funding.
Mhm.
And you can't tweak for everybody that you go to get donations from. So how do you treat with that aspect of it?
Right. Exactly. So agreed. So the conversation is going perfect. You have finance where we are saying these are our perspectives, and then looking as if you could tweak it. Your example, let's say it's a hydroponics farm, right? A hydroponics farm or something. Finance, exactly. You want to know, I need to make again this amount of profit. I need to make this amount of profit, otherwise I'm going to be out of business. Hydroponics. Very important for me. Who are my customers? Am I selling the products right there? So are they my customers, or am I selling hydroponic systems? Right. So I'm building on your example now. You know,
Yes,
you're just making me think.
Yes, that's fine.
So customer perspective. How am I going to make the customer come to me to get my products?
Right.
The hydroponics, because I could go to somebody else. Is it that I'm going to be growing the best type of lettuce? And then it comes down to the processes and how I'm probably manufacturing, or what type of system am I using, or what type of, what you said, your crops, how you growing it, what you're doing.
Yes. Mhm.
That affects-
Whether you're using chemical based, or if you're going natural or organic, as the case may be, looking
you
at the
see-
new health concerns that everybody's want to go healthy.
But you see what you realize you're doing there. The processes must be what? The processes must be, is the main process. The main process is everything that are involved in the product,
Right.
in getting the product to market. And that's what I was saying too. Plenty times people can, until you really do it this way, you will think about all different type of processes, but you realize it is not solving the business of the day. The
Problems,
business of the
correct.
day is to make money, if it's that type of organization. But you're
Correct.
doing all kind of things. Yeah.
Yes.
So the KPIs for your processes is important. I love the balance scorecard, because I see the reason that I'm talking like this, I see it in organizations how they feel when they don't do this. And of course, the best part for me, I will always preach this, is learning and growth. When the example that I would have in facilities management by me would be, I want to train my person. So I would start off by saying, training in some of the heavy MEPs. So in my field, electrical and plumbing and AC, those type of areas, I want 5 persons to be trained in that, right? And the reason is I will get the right skills and the right attitudes. I'm using what I call a learning on the go method with my staff. Where they're going to learn how to fix a pump. It's learning on the go, right? And you'll be able to streamline it like that. So it's learning on the go. And why are you going to train your staff? Why are you going to teach? Why are you going to grow people like that? In my case, it is to fix some of the internal processes. Some of the internal processes is a work order request form that needed to change. It's taken too long. So I need to train people probably in a certain area. And when I train you properly and you learn and you grow and you see it, then those processes, if somebody says they want to change a bulb, in 5 minutes it's changed because I've improved the processes. I have seen the importance, the most important process for me would be that work order form. And then what? You know, I'm making my customer happy. The clients that I serve, the occupants of buildings, they're going to be happy. But very important, am I going to make everybody happy? I'm going to say, you know what? If 90% of these customers are happy, we are a success. We are a success, but I develop the KPIs. And then when I do that, you know what I've done here? I've saved the organization $500,000. Why? Because I am not going to be outsourcing anymore. I have trained my people now to do the job in-house. I've trained my facility staff. So I have used learning and growth. I have used internal processes, because you can't, your processes may need to change in order to facilitate the learning and growth, because the processes by me, you know, people do long courses. I'm part of a university system, so people do long course, and they say that is training. Where I tell people that is not training. So training is mobile learning on the go and becoming more specific to the learning outcomes. And when they do that, that is changing processes, because it's no longer where you're going to sit down in a classroom. The process is that the supervisor of that area now going to be doing something, and the staff must learn along. So the processes change. And when you do that, we say, all right, we must have 20 of our processes to change. You have to state what it is now. You know, this is not going to just happen like that. You can't just say, I'm going to change process. How many processes you have to change? When are you going to change it? How are you going to measure that it is a success? And this is where we lack. We say something, but you're not implementing it properly. And then I'll say, all right, my processes have improved. Great. The clients that I serve are happy. I have 90% of the customers happy. And then I did save the organization more than 500,000, because we no longer outsource it. I have janitorial projects, and we're all doing it in-house because they have been trained how to do it. Now, if I was not doing that way, could I, by my simple example here, anybody, how has the balanced scorecard really helped me in that scenario? How has a balanced scorecard really helped me? In my example, Nikisha? No?
Hi, I'm in and out because I'm still working, so I'm just getting bits and pieces. Sorry about that.
No problem, but you're here and I'm glad.
No problem, but you're here and I'm glad. Yeah.
So who's getting in the control?
Who's getting in the control?
Did it help you identify the inefficiencies to allow you to be able to improve the functions?
Exactly, and I'm able to, if, you know, this is what I was saying to in facilities management by me, this is how we use a balanced scorecard more effectively. When people in my area, they keep just checking processes, fixing a ball, doing whatever the core task is. But we are not connecting it to these different perspectives. And when you're not connecting it, you know what happens? You are not able to show how your department then can save money for the organization, because you had nothing to show. You don't know, you just doing, and you did not integrate everything. So especially if I want learning to happen by me, and I want training to happen, I want something, I have to show that if we train people, you know what's going to happen? Processes will improve. Processes improve. What is going to happen to your customer? And then you're going to save the money organization. You're going to save organization money. But I'm able to back it up with data. If I wasn't thinking like that, or I'll say, okay, hey, people, are you working? What you doing? Today we weren't running week to week. What is the maintenance schedule? And we run week to week. And that's it. We don't know, have we saved the organization money? Have people improved? You know, that using the balanced scorecard for me, it really shows a better leadership skill rather than management, because management is just about, you know, you're just doing something. But when you lead, you are showing connectivity between all, especially the learning and growth here comes out from being an effective leader. So the balance scorecard, folks, it really teaches us a performance management tool. So that's one example in my area, facilities management. Another area, let's say it's a business, it's a coffee shop. You know, everybody know I love coffee. So let's say it's a coffee shop. Financial, a very simple example again, financial performance. You want to be in business for the next 6 months. How much you want to make? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? I need to make my customers happy. How much customers do you need to make happy? Because at the end of the day, customers could go away. Is it that every single customer must come there happy? Or is it if you have 5 customers that go on bad talk you, is okay? You have to look at the reputation. You have to look to say something like that. You must look at the market. If you are competing with very close products like yourself, you might say you need 100%. It's probably something new. And you know, a new brand or something new, you might say, all right, that's 80%, I don't have competition. But if you have competition, it will then determine how many customers that you really need to stay happy. And how are you going to get the customers happy? You have to probably fix up some of your processes, and some of the processes may be the long wait in the line, getting the coffee itself, etc. Your processes need to change. And learning and growth. Are you training people to be better baristas, as they say? Do you have the data to back this thing up? So again, come into your minds always with financial, customer, internal, and learning. Tennille, you had a question.
Yes, I just wanted to know then is more or less about what is your value add? What's the value that you're adding based on, based on the, like how you gave the example of the coffee shop, especially if you're competing, what is the differentiator between you and your competitor?
Your USP,
and
unique selling point.
yes,
yeah.
Correct. And then having the balance scorecard and stuff like that is what's going to be able to show you what is your value add to your customer, and by extension, everything else that it would impact, like how you were talking about with your facilities management, where you say they change bulbs and stuff like that, and they just go about every day. But if you can't show the value that your department or your process is going to show to the desired outcome at the end, which is the bottom line, the margins, is not going to be relevant to the organization, or your department is not going to be viewed as relevant to the organization.
Yes, exactly. And then this is where people will operate from. That's from an organizational point. You operate in silos, right? You operate in silos, everybody doing their piece. And then you're not able to see how you are contributing to the bottom line, which is money. So yes, the balance scorecard could help a business person, could help the entire organization, and it's more a leadership tool that I like to look at it as. You know, what do we need to achieve your strategic goals, and you see now everything integrated. Good. So I want to say, hopefully this will lay the right foundation for your business. It helps you to deliver to your customers, which then helps you deliver your financial results. This is why those 4 perspectives are not looked at in isolation, and that's why we keep preaching, but they are interlinked. And they are interlinked. So you can only achieve financial results if you deliver to your customer. You could only do this if you do the right thing internally. And you could only do this if you have the right foundational things in place, which is your learning and your growth of your people. Do you have the foundational things in place? So again, everything links together. Right, and this is just a little tip that I found. It is really important that we don't just see these as perspectives to identify performance measures. The starting point for this is that it is a framework that allows you to identify your goals and objectives. You identify what you need to deliver in terms of financial results, in terms of customers, in terms of internal learning. You identify your goals and then identify action plans linked to those goals. And then you identify things like measures that will help you monitor how well you deliver your strategy. Again, folks, many times in organizations, I've seen people don't have a strategy. They just don't have a strategy. Well, actually, their strategies are we need to make more money. We're not making enough money. How are you not making enough money? Do you understand your processes? Do you understand learning? Do you understand to make your customer happy? We may say it, but we have nothing to measure. We have nothing to measure against. You do things in a silos. Right. Now, I wanted to also share that. Tell me, and this is where Alwyn, I thought you probably saw my presentation before. Can we add additional perspectives? Sometimes you can ask for, 4 perspectives. Have we got some flexibility? Can we add more? Can we have more than 5 names? And the answer is absolutely yes. So you don't even have to change. You could add another one, And the reason is I'm bringing this forward. When you use a management tool, Alwyn, as you know, in strategic management, you can't say 25 years and somebody said 20 years ago they did this. You can't just say this is how it's going to remain. And things change. And you don't want to say that things remain like this forever. And this is where we'll fail. Alwyn?
Agreed. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a perspective that not a lot of professionals share. Models were so, like, for instance, I know the scorecard came up what 91, 92. And the business world has changed since then, and it has continued to change even further. And there are a lot of people that hold on to this belief that a model is a fixed thing, that it cannot be altered, that it cannot be adjusted to match the organization or the situation it's encountering at the time. As you said, you can apply it across departments, across functional units, and across sectors. But again, my challenge
Culture.
has been
Culture.
yeah,
Culture of
of
people.
course.
Culture of
When you express that, people tell you no. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about that too, Alwyn. How some persons that I think that would be so willing to change, because it's changed to remember we are a society that believe that this is how it was taught 20-something years ago, and this is how we need to stick to it. And the reason is because I'll always blame I'll blame teaching, I'll blame schooling. The schooling taught us to be very process oriented, and this is what was taught, and this is what we have to do. But I guess the generations will change it, huh? Generations will change it. We may, and I know we'll see it in our time. Well, you will see it in your time for sure.
Of course, yeah.
Then so I keep thinking about somebody. I don't want to say it, but I keep thinking about somebody in my mind all the time. He's a very technology person, supposedly technology, but he's not innovative at all. And you will have all these balanced scorecards and these ideas, and he's not accepting to certain things. He believes the same thing you said. This is how it's supposed to be, and you just flow. But persons like that, they are not leaders, they're managers, and eventually they fall off the organization. So probably very long, probably very long. But they don't take the organization forward. They don't take the organization forward. And we as consultants in the field, we're not like that, because we want to change. At the end of the day, this is our job. This is what we do. This is our passion. This is what we believe. We believe in change. So there's nothing stopping you adding a 5th perspective. I have a few that we could add. Environmental perspective, for example, social responsibility. Yes, especially with your funding business. Other organizations believe that the people element is so important that they bring this out in their own perspective. People. And I will preach that. People perspective. More than process. I believe in the people process. People one. You could add perspectives, change the names, which is encouraged, and to create a model of your strategic areas that are important for your business. And you know what? This is where you could develop new ideas, new certifications, and people then come to learn it from you, right, over a period of years, and it becomes a best practice. It becomes a best practice, and it forms policies. You tell us that it can change, yeah? It could change. Just looking at this, a history of balanced scorecard. Well, we spoke about it already, just making sure. Financial, to succeed financially, how should we appear to our stakeholders, internal processes, to satisfy our stakeholders and customers, what business processes should we excel at? learning and growth to achieve our vision, how will we sustain our ability to change and improve? How would you do that? Sometimes you realize that you need to change, and the whole aspect of coaching, you need to coach people. You can't dictate and tell them. Coaching and mentoring is different from teaching. You know, you coach and you mentor. It's supposed to be part of the training and development process too. But how do you do it? How do you improve? You may need to coach people. They need to understand emotional intelligence, all those good words. And customer, to achieve our vision, how should we appear to our customers? To achieve our vision, how should we appear to our customers? You must have your vision. You must have your strategy. Folks, questions? I want to ensure that you look at these processes over in case anybody came in late, anything like that. Yeah. Okay, Debbie, thank you. Financial performance, performance related to the customers, performance around their internal processes, and learning and growth. The balanced scorecard works. It takes time, but it can be very, 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 very helpful for everything to link, and you have things to measure. It is a tool a lot of people say is underutilized, and I've said yes, it is underutilized. Thank you all for being part of this Lunch and Learn. And as we continue for week to week, we have so much more to learn and learning culture. We're trying to change the way of how people learn, which is just come for lunch, well, virtual lunch, right? And you sit and you hear something and we contribute and have a great conversation. So Nikisha, thank you. You have a question?
No, it's not really a question. It's just a comment. So we were talking about the learning aspect of it, right? I don't think organizations really have a problem with the learning, because the COVID-19 pandemic showed us that we could, well, not all organizations, but a lot of organizations were able to pivot with that pandemic, right? And offered services they never offered. They were able to learn things in a short space of time, right? And kind of adapt, right? So within this last 2 years, the problem, I think, is they allow it to be reactive. Organizations are very reactive with their learning, right? And if it is, they take a proactive stance on it. I think they'll be in a better place to move without having something drastic like that happen, right? So, I mean, it's a lot of moving parts, and the balanced scorecard, as far as I see, is a kind of web that will allow you to control or have some sort of control over the moving parts of, right, of the performance of an organization, right? But the problem really is that the reactive way in which we learn, right, or try to grow to suit the markets that we are trying to get, or paying attention or scanning the environment to see how the world is moving. I think that is the problem. And then we only wait until the financial part of it tanks, and then we try to look back and see where we went wrong.
Yeah, we're not proactive. We're very reactive people.
We're very reactive people. Yes.
Yeah. So great. I do agree totally. Learning that people did learn from it, but they learned because they were forced. But analyze that too. How many people did they really learn, or they just pivoting and going back to their normal? I've been in organizations, and I want to know, are these people crazy? All of these good learnings that came out of COVID, now they're just going back into the normal routine way of working, letting people come to their desk 24/7 or wherever, however they work, and so learning is a hell of a thing. But I agree. Thank you. So thanks again. I'm very happy to see you all week to week. Next week, we're having a wonderful session on Power BI, business intelligence. So I'm sure you all will really, really enjoy that one. And then we have a leadership coming up on evolutionary leadership. A very good speaker coming to talk about that. And then I'll come back again with agile project management, how to do agile, the agile way of working, and some others. So thank you. And we look forward as we go down the road. Thanks again. All the best, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
good.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye.